We're live already? Audience, what are you doing sneaking up on me like that? What? You thought you were gonna sneak up on me not looking handsome? Nice try. Impossible. Anyway, cheers. Anyway, guys, welcome back to where we are undoing everything that's been done wrong. All the spiritual, all the cultish, all the religious, all the psychological structures that has been built. This is the place to undo everything. And I'm also like, I want this to be more of a thing, because all of that stuff needs to be undone. And I watch, for example, like most of the videos that are being created, it's all about brainwashing and give me the money, I'll give you the course and all that stuff. And I want to talk about this particular motion of consciousness once again, and how it is being created, and how to actually go the opposite way, not in the world of the beliefs, but direct experience of what is, and end it forever. And if it arises again, you know what to do again. That faculty is so important to learn. It is spat in the face of all of these helpers, but they are demonic, they are satanic. You understand? All the self-help industry, they're not helping. With the very few people, with the exception of very few people who were inviting people to use that faculty of consciousness, which does resolve the incoherence or fragmentation in your heart, and then you go ahead with your life. This is why all of these teachings about manifestation, all of these, none of that supposed to be taught. Like, you either teach somebody the entire use of consciousness or not at all. You cannot use one fragment. For example, if you teach manifestation, somebody who is quite fragmented in the heart, they're going to go into the magic, and they're going to use that magic for their dark, nefarious purposes. Even if they think that I'm a helper, I'm the savior, and you just follow me, and I'm just going to, do all sorts of things just to keep this cultish environment hooked, and I don't want to mention them by names, but no. And so when it comes to psychology, you don't listen to anybody, right? Like, that's what I'm trying to say, that if you want to learn a skill, it's legit. You can learn a skill from anybody. If somebody's skillful and they have, really good skill, and it's important if they have a decent character too, because trying to learn a skill from somebody who's, fucked up or dark or whatnot, is going to affect your learning. So it has to be a good person and skilled at its craft, at his or her craft. Then that type of authority is legit, because somebody's teaching you the skill tree, right? And then, sensei, master, thank you, and you have respect because they are teaching you something that you have not yet mastered. And once you master it, then they're your buddy, because there's nothing else that they can teach you in that respect, right? This thing, the psychological thing, there are no masters. There are no masters, you understand? Like, it cannot be taught. in a sense that through the use of thought. It cannot be thought like that. It is not a memory thing. It is not something that I will give you the information, you're going to use the information, and you're going to get something, right? This is horizontal development, and this is supposed to be vertical development, not horizontal. And so any kind of invasion of that vertical development with some horizontal bullshit is going to be just damaging your consciousness. You understand? It does not help. It's damaging. It's nefarious, actually. Look at this dynamic, the way it is. You know, people are addicted to it, like watching something over and over again, or you know, taking courses of how to behave, and they create a mechanical behavior, and then they behave with the people mechanically, and then they feel exhausted, and all these dysfunctions that arises from this type of approach. You gotta dump all of this. This is why my work right now, my life's work, it turns out to be, that's what my life's work, part of it is because I saw that this is the highest leverage, that you got to undo all of that crap that's been indoctrinated into people. And so then that puts me like an antagonistic figure to all of these teachers, with the exception of Krishnamurti, who was inviting, you know, people to do the alchemy in real time with him as he was talking. Again, I just want to just show you the way the consciousness functions in that abnormal way. Okay, it is important, like that fragmentation within our hearts must be corrected. It's part of life, right? But we cannot go the wrong way anymore about this. This reality permits going the wrong way, but not only that we went the wrong way, but it's now be accepted, you know, governmentally, societally, as this is all right. You know, put you on the drugs, or join a cult, or come up with all sorts of new fix thing, you know, something to hold on to. So basically, leave one trap and then get into another one, right? You addicted to the alcohol, join some freaking support group of the alcoholic people, you know, and then, you know what I'm trying to say. Enough is enough. That includes the psychedelic people who are abusing psychedelics. You know, that's also an addiction. When you take a psychedelic, it may last few months, you know, or 6 months or whatnot, even though the psychedelic is no longer in your system, but what it did to your brain still has the effect. But after some time, when everything is going to go back to normal, because you are not alchemizing yourself, you're not reintegrating your consciousness yourself, it's going to go back into the dark again, and then the person feels the need to take another dose of psychedelic. Okay, so even that, all of that needs to be undone. That's what I realized after going through all of this. I saw this way, that way, and everything was abominable and not the right way. And big industries are built on that are useless, and they need to die. One of the, like, for example, right now here in Mexico, the vice tourism is dead. Hotels are empty. The creeps are no longer here. These Instagram morons that act like fucking idiots for the content are not here. Gone. Okay? People who are making money that don't really deserve, gone. So this place is cleaning up. Okay? I would like to see more sustainable projects, more ecotourism, more people of, and even the government programs that are um, prioritizing sustainability rather than quick money through vices, right? That's it. You got nobody. You got no money. Nobody's gonna pay you for your vices anymore. You got to figure out how else to live. And all the people who are making money from the vices gonna have to leave this place. And this place is supposed to have beautiful, sustainable projects because it has amazing nature. People come here either for nature or for devices, but people who come here for nature and the climate and the abundance that it can have in sustainability, the variety of biodiversity, of fauna, flora, and things like that. It is possible to live quite beautifully here, but nothing like they try to do this here. So that part is dead. The same thing, the gurus, no one's gonna be showing up at the gurus anymore. These teachers, and right now, like, they always try to like a new way, and it's like, wow, now the new fad is like, I'm an ex-CIA psyop officer, let me show you how to program your mind. Get the fuck out of here. You're the problem of why everybody's fucked up, or a lot of people are fucked up. And now look, I'm gonna teach you, I'm trying to say like another thing. I'm so tired of this thing. I want to destroy it all. I am destroying it all, little by little. Now, that brings me to this, how it works. The way it works is that at the core, you have the mind, which is the plethora of types of thoughts, and there are 7 types of thoughts and images and patterns. You have the body. There are 6, and the 7th is the overall overarching. And then the same thing. There's 6 sensations and 6 motor movements or motions, right? So you can move the patterns in your mind, or you can move the senses. Move the patterns in your mind and see the patterns in your mind, and then move in the body and sense. There are 6 senses, and the 7th is overall. And there are 6 types of thoughts or thinking, and the 7th is overall. Okay. When you go into the world of senses through the 7th, where you in touch with the 7th, all of these senses are amazing. When you go into the world of the mind through the 7th, all of the thoughts are ideal and amazing. This is why they call ideas. Okay? If you don't enter the world of senses, and the world of thoughts through that lens, everything's going to be fucked up. Okay? Why it is so? So we all start with fragmentation in our heart. Now, if nobody dissolves that fragmentation, mind and body is going to look for the ways to cope with that fact, with that suffering, with that angst, right? And even though it is asking for your attention, but rather than giving it our attention, if we engage into belief creation, there's going to be belief. Okay, so there's a negative feeling right there. And then I'm going to label it, and I'm going to create a belief. And then a belief may be like, oh, I'm unworthy, right? Or there's a feeling of disgust in me. Whatever that may be, right? That labeling. So that's the first thing that happens. The first layer, okay? The insecurity. Then to cope with that, because, you can't just walk around feeling insecure. You got to create another one and project, because this is like a film, the negative, right? The negative of the film. When you make photos, first you have the negative, and after that you project the positive, which is the final picture. It's like a hologram. So now if you have the negative and the film is fucked up, right? Because the fragmentation in your heart has not been dissolved, the belief is like a patching that thing up, creates a negative belief in the negative part of hologram, the film. And then you have to use energy all the time to keep creating and fighting with that reality that's already been projected onto your screen, but you're fighting with that reality and keep on trying to projecting something different and positive, right? And so that is a dark magic, when it's darkness within you, but through will, through power, you are projecting something that is. And so that creates this type of sadomasochistic or narcissist and empath dynamic, which, by the way, like, it's good for comedy, because but it's horrible if you living this type of life. But anyway, I'm just saying that that's the type of sadomasochistic dynamic, the narcissist and an empath, and then they're blaming each other. There's often that the narcissist flip to the empath, and very often that empath just flips to the narcissist, and they're just flipping like that, right? Because they are. That's the only way to live here in this world, and they don't even have an awareness that there's another faculty, that not only that you would have to get rid of this mask thing that you're trying to mask what is negative within you already, but also you're going to have to rid of the mask, which is this positive belief that's trying to counteract the negative. Go into the negative belief and then deal from there. And then when you pass the negative belief, then you go into the raw feeling, and then you begin to unlabel that, and that raw feeling is possible to alchemize it into coherence. And so that's how you defragment your soul, your heart, because if there's a fragmentation there, it's an ego. If you defragment and dissolve these fragments, then you have the soul. Now, when there's coherence within your heart, you at least have this mirror, which is like that seventh layer of consciousness in the mind, right? That contains all the six, and then the seventh layer of the body. Now, what you have is direct experience of the reality. Okay, you're not projecting anything onto anybody anymore. Your negative film contains the negative and the positive. So what already projecting on your reality is good already. You don't need to continuously use the energy to fight what the reality is. You understand? So now all the energy is being used to create the coherence within you, and allow that to create any kind of idea, because those ideas are spontaneous. If you have the good coherence within your heart, there's going to be good ideas. Okay? And then the same thing in the body, there's going to be good actions too, right actions. Okay? So, and it's going like this in a circle. You have to make the right action that applies the pressure on the alchemy, because sometimes, for example, like, how do you get out of this? You start by saying, okay, no, like, for example, I've been cutting off a lot of those negative beliefs within me, and these negative habits and all that stuff for the last few years, like a lot. And every time I say, no, I'm not going to do this anymore, then the alchemical challenge comes along. The demon starts trashing, and so then I have an opportunity to alchemize it at the source. And when it's resolved, it is resolved. It is done. Not that I just rid of like this one particular, habit or addiction. What happens usually is like you rid of addiction itself, so it does not latch on to some another thing. Okay. So that's the thing. Okay. So I hope you can see this, and it's not really helpful for somebody to still live in this world and see everything as like such a like negative thing. What I mean by that is that when a person is trying to project an ideal into the world, but the world is messed up because what's deeply within your soul is being projected as a negative, and then you are idealizing and trying to project the positive, it creates such a painful experience. You cannot live in this world. This is what I'm trying to say, that this is not spirituality when people are trying to push you into an ideal of some sort, artificially created by belief system. Because what do they do? Somebody comes up with the suffering and says like, "Oh no, you are God. Don't you know that you're God? You, you or whatever. Like you are loved. You're God." So the people says it. So the people go like, "Oh, I am God. I am loved. I'm already whole," and all of that fucking affirmation bullshit. And so, as long as they keep on harping that thing, there's this negation of that and sugarcoating crap. You understand? This is cannot be shown through the belief. You understand? This can only be shown through the energy. This world is of energy, not thoughts. This is why when I'm doing one-on-one sessions, it is about undoing the beliefs. We're going to this, belief arises, the mind starts blah, 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 blah. Going, okay, going back. Until that breakthrough starts happening and the realization and the direct experience of wholesomeness already there. By looking at it and giving it the right type of attention. Not thinking. This is it. Okay? Everything else, these gurus, these teachers, they just telling you the ideas externally, is just creating another belief system. And it does not work like that. Principles are fine in in arts and science and craft. Principles are fine. But that is it's about how to create something, how to play some game, right? Those principles are useful. This is not a thought. This is not. And by the way, most of these principles arise in you naturally as a natural structure. This is why when you see this, it's like, oh shit, I cannot teach anybody, what's it like to do magic unless they're already, defragmented themselves, unless they are in that field of consciousness where there's a direct experience of it. When there's a direct experience of it, not created by the mind, but it's already, direct, not hallucinated, but it's already there, then all of these states of consciousness could not be understood. I cannot say something, and say like, well, this is how this, feels like, and then you use your mind to create it like, oh, it must feel like that. It is not that. It's just going to be, a hallucination of that, but not direct experience. This is why everything that I'm saying to you here is basically negating all these other escapes and inviting you to one-on-one session with me, basically, or if you have capacity to already, just by listening to me, to put your attention on the source of all of that fragmentation. So you see how many layers. If a person functioning on the layer of the mask, first you got to take off the mask, then the person becomes super insecure, and then you have to go through that until you go into the real core, where they are secure, not because of the mask, but because of the direct experience of not being that not being fragmented there in your heart. Then a lot of energy that you wasted to just keep up afloat is now free to be used to do whatever you like to do. And it doesn't matter what that is. You do it, and you may say, well, I'm doing all of this thing that I love, but among all these people who are quite messed up, and whatever, the society is still kind of broken or whatever. If you keep on alchemizing, you're going to start seeing other people that are dysfunctional not as a problem, but as a basically fragmented energy, potentially could be defragmented and contribute more to the energy of your soul. That's the way I look at this right now. And that's how you live in the world of demons, without being touched by them, and using that that fragmented energy, that incoherent energy of a demon, and dissolving it back into the whole. And it works. You understand? It works. You have to say no externally when they cross the lines and say, okay, this is inappropriate, you cannot do that. The triggering may be there, and when the triggering is there, time for the alchemy. And when the alchemy is done, things change. Okay? So to look at this world and say, oh, this world is all fucked up, and we can't do anything about it, the government is fucked up, how the fuck do you go? Well, that's not a good idea. The best way to do is like, okay, well, it is pretty messed up. What am I gonna do now? Just give up and be depressed and live in the societal thoughts? Or I'm actually gonna do something about it. I'm actually gonna do something about it. Whether that's going to be enough or not, it's not important. As long as I can have any impact on reducing corruption. If I see somebody doing some bullshit nonsense, I'll say, whatever you're doing is bullshit. they may go, whatever, but hey, I'm sorry, this is complete crap. Like, enough is enough, right? And other people start realizing, it's like, holy shit, yeah, this is messed up. Like, what am I putting my attention? My attention is now going on here rather than in my heart. And this is why I'm fragmented in the first place, because these motherfuckers just take my attention. Okay? So I made this video of like reducing the entertainment and increasing the enjoyment, direct experience of life, and alchemy and theurgy, as I call it. That's the thing, that like I cannot teach anybody theurgy, thaumaturgy, physiology, which is the physical thing. You can teach anybody. These are just skills that are to do with like physical reality. Those, are the same. But you cannot teach somebody magic if they don't have the prima materia, if they're not whole. And also recognize that there's levels of these fragmentations. There is a higher degree of fragmentation the deeper you go, and eventually it goes into one split. That's the most intense fragmentation. And some souls live at that level, and some souls are, lesser level. But we're all kind of fit in, and we are supposed to be working where we are working, what kind of soul we are. So it's not that all the souls are functioning at the deepest and the most, and handling the most evil things. Some handling a minor evil, but they are handling them, right? And that is enough for them, when they're doing the alchemy or calibration of consciousness. Because technically alchemy is just at the deepest level, and all these other layers, for other types of souls, calibration is probably a better word, because that's what they're doing. So anybody can calibrate their consciousness, whichever the level of the game they're playing. And that's just the way it is. This is not like there's not superiority, inferiority, nonsense. These things are factual. So we all have our level of the game and our level of responsibility. Okay? And if you playing some minor game or intense game, but if you can contribute to reduction of corruption through your calibration and external work that you do, and not allowing that corruption to proceed. This is why, like, when you see something corrupt and abominable, don't let it happen. Don't just say like, oh, and just be falsely empathetic. It's like, well, people get to express themselves the way they want. No, they cannot. Egos cannot express themselves, because it's a criminal thing. The law is the law. Right? It's like, well, if you let the ego express the way it wants to, where is it going to end? Minor crime, bigger and bigger crime. That's where it's going to end, because it's going to try to corrupt something, cheat something. You see what I'm trying to say? So you want to crush the evil when it is small. This is why there's a comedian out there who's laughing about his kids being, ridiculous and quite maniacal and demonic, and he finds it very funny. I don't think that he should be, just using this as a source for humor, because there's something dysfunctional and evil is brewing in his family, and right now it's funny, ha ha ha. But if it's not going to do anything about it, the dysfunction is going to grow and grow and grow and grow, and get to the point where it's going to be too late. So you crush the evil when it is small. When it's a tantrum in a child, you can crush it there. When evil gets too big, then the big dogs must do their job. But it is not okay to let that grow. It is not okay to let that go. False empathy, which is evil, that devouring mother energy lets that. Okay, because it's devouring your soul by letting your ego grow. It rhymes, so you know it's true. And another side is narcissist, right? These are the two sides, the feminine corruption and the masculine corruption of consciousness. And I've explained how it all happens. It is the movement of consciousness, and as long as there's a fragmentation in your heart, everything you do is going to be false. You understand the significance of it? You understand the cutoff of the game? Don't bother doing anything unless it comes from the wholeness of your heart. So, what I recognize to be the game is first the reduction of corruption in all sorts of forms. I'm not talking about just bribes and corrupting the corrupt system, or whatever. I'm talking about, which is obviously the consequence of that. It's like somebody creates the governmental system, and then somebody else is trying to overcome that corrupt governmental system by corrupting the corrupted system. And in a way, when you corrupt the corrupted system, you have a bit of like a correction happening, right? And something just could happen in the corrupt system, just because you can, if somebody with a good intent and a lot of money can do a lot of good in the corrupt system. But ideally, you don't want to have the corrupt system. Ideally, you want to keep reducing the corruption within the system, so nobody would have to go and try to use bribes and shit like that. Why do that? See, that's the thing. In Mexico, there's a lower level corruption, and in the United States, there's a high level corruption, but that needs to be reduced, and people are working on reducing that. And as much as I can, I do too. And I would like to get more and more involved into this, but I got to figure out how to make money in reducing the corruption. And one of the ways that I reduce corruption is through my one-on-one sessions. That is the reducing corruption at its source. That's the most impact that I can make, to actually set somebody free from that motion of consciousness, to that corrupt motion of consciousness. And that gives me, I'm passionate about it, and that gives me the most satisfaction. And then we'll see. But anyway, this is what I was trying to say about don't bother about the magic. Don't bother about your imagination, even if there is incoherence in your soul. Soul needs to be addressed first. Now, and as long as you live in a world where you can see that your actions and the way you live directly from the heart, from the soul, is reducing corruption within your heart continuously. I don't know what the fuck they're talking about enlightenment and what the fuck that even means and what is this, but the only thing I can see is that is a continuous reduction of corruption within your heart, and keeping that prima materia, that soul, alive and passionate and beautiful and clear and crisp is the primary work. Then see what comes up in your imagination, what kind of ideas, and play in your imagination, and then you have a right to play in the astral world. Okay? Because if you are going to play the games in the astral world and you still have fragmentation within you, you're gonna make a mess. Which is what? Your own life, your own world. You're gonna make a mess. Right? And there's this work, this all this intent to use that willpower is like, oh, this is the way to, and you find that way to counteract that fragmentation with your heart, with your imagination, and then you do get some success, some result in a, in a physical reality, and it's like, oh, that's the way. But then the reality hits, and it's like that. Not only that's not the way, it is the opposite. You had to drop all that bullshit that you're doing. You got to face that crap that is in your heart, and only when on the other side this coherence arises, only then the idea and the right action will be born. And right now, honestly, the most return on investment is your attention. Keep bringing your attention to that incoherence. And right now, like I said, there are times where it's kind of more tough. And right now we live in a bit of like rough patch. And I've been calling this a black tar lava type of patch that needs to be alchemized, because it feels like that. It is to do with that false empathy. It is to do that with that corrupt feminine, which is the past, by the way. And the corrupt masculineness is the future. Chirologically speaking, not chronologically, but psyche-wise. There's something that happened in the past, right? And then trying to fix it by going to the future. That's the empath and the narcissist, right? Or sadist, a masochist. Put any kind of label you like, but there is that type of I wish I could explain this through the holography, and this is something that I'm going into, and I think in the future I would like to explain these things through the holography, because it's very easy to understand, because you can see, because that is exactly how your consciousness works, and you cannot see directly how it all works while you're in it, but when you have this whole perspective view, you can start seeing it. It's like, oh shit, this is all holographic. And then you can see it's like, oh, the film is all messed up and it's projecting crap on my screen, and then you say, okay, well, the film is messed up. Why is the film messed up? Why is there this insecurity, whatever, that doubt? Why is it creating this crap on my screen? Right? And then you go deeper and you see that, oh, there's this fragmentation, there's distortion. That's why. And you start putting your attention more and more there, and it starts dissolving and it starts disappearing, and it's, while it's happening, you can kind of see, it's like, oh, this is exactly where my energy is supposed to be placed, on the most negative thing that I can find within my consciousness. And that's how it's being resolved at the source. And while your attention is there, it is actually quite enjoyable. You're not trying to end it, you're not trying to get rid of it. It's just like you're in the process of dissolving something, and it's enjoyable because there's emotion there. And when that black tar is dissolving, it's, and because that's false feminine, you get to touch this real feminine, which is this void, this true love, the true death. Because the other one is just, it's a false death, that is a toxic death that's killing your mind and body. That's what the devouring mother is. It's killing your mind and body. And the tyrannical father is killing someone else's mind and body, Anyway, so you see that dynamic going on. That's what we're going through right now. And that's just the cycles of life. And it is happening. And it is not up to you, not up to me. This is just the way it works. And those are the challenges. That's what we have to go through. It is that sickly energy of these false empathic people who are sugarcoating crap. And, I'm just saying how it is. But that energy is being dissolved right now. And I know for a fact that they are all of these people that are connected to this start having self-realizations and realizing how they were just smelling their own fart and blaming narcissists. You see what I'm trying to say? Because both sides are toxic. You cannot take one side or the other. You're always going to enter in that toxicity. But you can go through the eye of a needle where it's neither. Okay? Now, of course, the answer is always the same. Putting attention on the dysfunction does not help the dysfunction. You understand? Like, a psychologist could describe the narcissist to you perfectly. Could describe you exactly how it all works. No. Does that help you? Because if you're an empath, which is just as bad as narcissist, you may get off on the fact of figuring out how the narcissists work. Okay, that gives you that pacification. And then you may be obsessed with the narcissist and trying to study like the narcissism is like, oh yeah, that's who fucked me up. Meanwhile, you're just smelling your own farts because the toxicity is within you, and the fact that you're trying to pacify it by blaming a narcissist, by figuring it out and how it all works, and and trying to get that masturbatory effect of intellectual masturbation, because it just pacifies still that fragmented part of you. You still are not out. You're still in an analytical mode of being, and you're still toxic, you're still dangerous, and no one you see what I'm trying to say. Both sides right now, like, they're looking at each other, they're blaming each other, they're still equally dangerous, but now they're keeping distance at each other. So it's like, well, I don't trust you, you're a narcissist. Like, yeah, well, I know how fucked up you are, you're an empath. And then, like I said, like, it's usually you flip from the empath to narcissist, from the narcissist to empath. And the reason I'm mentioning this is to stop doing that shit. I'm not analyzing narcissist, I'm not analyzing empath. I'm saying both of them are wrong. And the process of consciousness, I'm just pointing to the process of consciousness that is dysfunctional, toxic, even though it may give you this pacification that is a temporary. But then you will go back to the same thing. You'll still feel like crap, and then you're gonna have to find another way of you not feeling like crap and try to blame somebody else, right? So this is nothing spiritual. There's nothing to be proud of. There's no answer there. This is a waste of your intellect, waste of your energy. It should never been even looked at this place, because it's not useful in any kind of way. It's still this dysfunctional process of consciousness. I really want to say this very fucking clearly, because yes, I know that I'm alienating both sides, and then, you know, but I'm okay with that. But I do know that there is a way out. It is real. Nothing to do with drugs, nothing to do with self help, nothing to do with manifestational training, nothing to do with training and courses and stuff like that. Just in one session, you can discover this faculty of your consciousness that you can use by yourself to set yourself free permanently and have a capacity to calibrate your consciousness at any point in time. Something that is real, something that it works in, it happens to you naturally as you live life. You just, your attention is moving in a different way. You live life through the heart all the time and not through the mind or the body. If you go into the mind, it's through the heart. If you go into the body, it's through the heart. This is why, like, when you go through the heart and the body, all the motions and sensations are freaking amazing and ecstatic. When you go into the mind through the heart, everything is clear and beautiful and awe-inducing. It is that type of motion. Never go into the mind without the heart, and never go into the body without the heart. That includes all the activities like sports, like sex, like creative endeavors, includes everything. Okay? And so that's the true meaning of this hermeticism, is when you're no longer leaking energy and you're saying that through the heart or not at all. It is real. You understand? It is very real. It is possible. It is doable. I'm doing it. And all the people that I showed are doing it. And I'm already having the stories developing that they're awesome and awe-inspiring. I see people by themselves fixing their lives up just by using that faculty of consciousness naturally and beautifully, and all the challenges are being dealt with in respectful domains. You use the right faculty for the right challenge. If it's about taking action, you're not trying to manifest this in your imagination. It is about taking action. You take the right action. And if it's about alchemy, then you're not trying to fix it with some weed or some psychedelic. It is about alchemy, you know? And if it's about imagination, and you have to start seeing, something in your mind, enjoying the vision that you see for yourself and others, then that's the magic. And you use everything in its appropriate place. And it works. And, you can get yourself out of it, right? And you don't have this when you are in life and you're living life, and you know that it is possible to reduce the corruption and basically things are getting better and they continue to get better. And as long as you see the reduction in corruption, you're not trying to get rid of everything at once. There's a reduction of corruption and it's fine, right? So every time you see something is dysfunctional, you say it's just a matter of time. That thing is going to go. And you keep on living life. You don't, go, it's all hopeless here. There's nothing we can do. Look, it's just a slavery program. And it's just no. If you live your life holistically and using all faculties of consciousness, you will be in a process of reduction wherever you are, whatever you do. This is why, like, right now, like, my dad at some point told me, he says, like, hey, you should go into politics. And when he told me, I was like, what? No, this is the furthest thing from it, like in the government. Like, I was fighting the government all my life. Like, now I have to go into the, government is insane. Like, what is this? No. It's like, no, like, maybe I thought my dad is, like, not really getting of what I am, what I'm doing. I'm against the government. But now I'm seeing is that, like, Oh no, because I do have some awareness of how things should work, and it's if it is working in my life and it's working in other people's lives, and it may work on a bigger scale to have this type of approach and to drop all the religions, all the cults, all the spirituality, all the new age, outlaw it, you know, and give another way out for people that is natural and simple and beautiful, does not require any kind of gimmicks, tinctures or anything, right? Just your own consciousness. And then, of course, in the body, there's all sorts of healthy nutrition and, and supplements, and that's the body thing. You go nuts there, Um, the mind as well, there's a certain way of being creative in the mind, and all these principles, and sure, go nuts there. But there is a way. Everybody has its place that is holistic in this world. Everybody. And of course, some people, when they don't want to be part of this holistic world where they too dark. I mean, look, like even if you embark in destroying evil in people by locking them up or killing them, because every time you're going to do this, the evil is still in them, right? And if you kill a person, the evil now it's released. Now it's super difficult to alchemize, but somebody's going to have to alchemize that evil. If somebody does not alchemize that evil is going to come in and incarnate in somebody else. Okay, so this is why um, this is why you should lock up the people who are abusing, uh, you know, their freedom, for sure. Uh, Also, the America, the land of the free, and originally of how these founding fathers created and the vision that they had. Probably, it sounds to me like it's been induced by some sort of, because it seemed like they did have that um, uh, contrasting to the tyranny of monarchy of Britain, and they tried to create something free, and they did create, and that lasted for a little bit, but then later it was corrupted. But that idea, that spirit, that true American spirit, that was originally there, I think is amazing. You know, and there was something there amazing between these people who live locally and naturally, the indigenous people, and people who came in with technology. I think originally it was really an opportunity to integrate the cultures, but it turned into war. You're right, but not everything, not everybody saw it that way. Some people saw it like, no, this is, look, there's a free way of living, and I think this is the most that I see that happening in the most balanced way is Texas, um, or Tennessee. There's something there that's different. And people, honestly, like if you speak with people, they don't see things this way. They see this like there's a way of life that is kind of this modernity, and this natural way of life was integrated, right? That's something awesome that's been happening there. Um, and but of course the rest of it was all about war and killing and greed and stuff like that. But not everybody were evil. But that awesome spirit, that awesome idea, that sustainable lifestyle and free and independent, and about art and beauty and renaissance and creativity, and it's there, and I love that. And if I represent anything, it's that type of culture. you know. Um, and I love that type of America. I don't love this, ad based and dysfunction based and all this indulgence based America. This is not freedom, or free sex or stuff like that. This is not freedom. That's not freedom. But there's something real there. Well, I think, to me, I don't know about you, but to me that's enough. Like, I see it working. I see the corruption being reduced. I see things changing for the better, and as long as it's so, it's all right. If you do see it, then you do see it, right? If you live still a little bit too deep up on your own butt, then you're not gonna be able to see it, and it's still gonna be very dark, and you're gonna think, oh, the world is so fucked up. It is a work in progress, and every single person who points at the world and says it's fucked up, it's responsibility to do something about it, but not as you have always been doing. And when I say you, I mean, the person who tried to fix the world without the defragmenting themselves within the heart. I don't know what else to say, guys. And it cannot be done through thought, it cannot be done through the belief, it cannot be done through the system. It just a direct attention. It's the right type of attention. Sometimes the right types of questions allows a person to place the right type of attention and connect that attention with awareness and see the direct experience of things and feel the dissolution of the fragmentation, and seeing that, like, oh my god, it's passion there. People say, like, inner peace, inner peace. You cannot seek inner peace. Inner peace arises together with the inner passion. Honestly, when you face your own crap, and your crap is everybody else's crap too. That's why, to me, it's just like one pile of crap in which we ought to grow the flowers. This is how you make those gems. People talk about the DMT elves and stuff like that. They're not elves, um, machine elves and whatever and stuff like that. This is just simply the world of soul. Is the this alive geometry is the world of soul. Gems. What are those gems? Those are feelings. When you look at that gem, it's a type of feeling that's happening there, and you create the feeling, and out of that feeling there's some idea comes in, and then you can create an image, and it's a creative thing, right? And we're gathering these gems. You slay the demon, you get the gem. Then you can get to look at the gem, and it's just like, which is like your own state of consciousness. And I know that I'm just scratching the surface, but I know that that is the way. And the discipline part of is to saying no to all of these people going the backwards way, and saying, and I know it'd be like, no, but there's just people doing their thing, don't they? Like, they're trying to help people. They're not helping people. They are making things worse, and they should stop doing that. And they will, period. If they're teaching how to play guitar, fair enough. If they're teaching, you know, how to martial arts, fair enough. If they're trying to install the belief system that pacify your suffering, no. Or inviting you from to in saying that I'm going to take you from one trap into another. This, what I'm saying, I have nothing to sell, no course, nothing. I have something to show, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it, and that's it. Like, that's it. You're free. You don't depend on me at all. You know, it may take you know, a couple of tries. Most people no more than a couple of tries. Some people may need like, you know, more than that, but most of the time it's because they are interested in this other side of the world of how harmonizing the energies now that they are not fragmented, and then play with these energies. There's another field, but you cannot teach that if person is still fragmented. You just can't. Understand? So there's a lot to learn on this side of the pond, but you cannot teach that unless the person is already free and understand how to use their primordial faculty of consciousness. Then it's like, yes, like somebody may be on this side who can kind of, you know, figure a few things out more, you know, others less and stuff like that. But everybody's learning on this side. Everybody's learning and will always be learning, but some, of course, a little bit more advanced than others, and so you can learn from the person who's a little bit advanced than you, but not that person is a master and now has stopped learning. That person is still a student, and it continues to be learning, and that's what's so fascinating. And then there's our facets, you know, and somebody is good at this facet, and you may be good at that facet. You didn't exchange gems, you know what I'm trying to say? That's why, you know, when people take DMT and think of what these are doing, they are exchanging gems, not the knowledge, but the consciousness, that, you know, gem in which everything is encoded. The feeling, emotion, thought, sensation, everything is encoded. And by the way, to mine for these gems, you need to be in a planet that is, you know, quite dark. Right? When you discover the coal mine, right, there might be a lot of diamonds there, but it's just a bunch of coal. But you don't say, oh my God, this is just like a bunch of coal. Like, what the fuck are we going to do? Like, it's not worth being here. Fuck this shit. Like, you know, like all of these diamonds I have to mine for them, and it's not giving it to me on a silver platter, man, you know? I said, that's exactly how these people sound. They're supposed to be spiritually awakened people who see that the world is messed up, but don't see that messed upness of the world is their desire to work on. Okay? So this is the attitude to have, and it is a healthy attitude. But I do, of course, I know sometimes the despair, that sometimes we may go into despair, and I had sometimes, like, then, you know, when I shined the light upon it, and when I saw the level of darkness and how much of it was just covered, you know, and it's almost like the coal mine, but bejeweled with false diamonds, and you think that this is just a, you know, like a temple made out of the gems, but then you scratch it and they fall off, and then you see, fuck, this is just my coal, you know, coal mine. And then when you do that, then you say, well, these are not real gems. This is just covering the coal mine. And at that point, you'll be, oh my God, how fucking toxic this thing is. And of course, there is a disappointment and despair to see the true reality and how everything was sugar coated. And of course, that's when you no longer gullible, when you know that there's a false way of somebody's trying to shine, but you look deeper and it's like, oh, there's just bunch of coal covered in bejeweled with something false. So yeah, of course I understand that. And but all that energy, that rage, that anger is like, oh my God, how can people be so corrupt? Alchemize that, realize that, okay, I see how it is. There's a lot of work, and you mine these diamonds in this coal, because it's you cannot just pick up that jewel right now, because all of that superficial jewels are false. Let's mine for the real ones. Little by little, we're gonna find those real gems. I don't know, maybe I'm butchering this metaphor, but let's just say you're mining for the gems. But there's a lot of work, and there's a lot of fluff that is not a diamond, but it's just pure rock, or coal, if you will. And you gotta crush that thing into the diamond. And that's the metaphor. That's what if you take this view, then you say, okay, so there's a lot to do, which means that there's a lot of diamonds to discover. And you start at exactly, honestly, or where you are in respect of the rest of the world and the rest of the people. Now, this honest beginning, and you start exactly, not ahead, not behind, but exactly where you are. It's all right. And because there's nothing else to do, this thing that you chose, I'm taking my time, little by little, chipping away and getting my diamonds. And now you are enjoying something that you meant to be enjoying. You see, you're not trying to one up the universe and falsify these jewels, but at the same time, you're not going to despair and saying like, well, what's the point? This is all fucked up, right? And you face these things the way they are. And now you're in a position to do something about it. It may take years, but you're not in a rush, because every time you discover a diamond throughout your work, it's amazing, it's fantastic, it's enjoyable. Next. And so you keep on mining for these diamonds. And in a way, it is like, it's a specific way of being in this world, exactly where you need to be. Not afraid of corruption anymore, but seeing that as the energy that is trapped, and seeing it's like, well, I can release that energy. I know how to do that. I can release that energy into something good, right? I can certainly, disagree and discern and say, no, this is not right, right? Just because when you are exactly where you are, you know the law. And so you are trying to make that law external as well. Okay? And this is why, like, right now in the States, I can see that, and even in Mexico, law is being sort of like enforced, right? And then hopefully that legislators are creating more, less corrupt laws and more coherent laws, more correct laws. And so the whole society must have laws that your consciousness already has, right? If you structure like this, you will have something like probably like a step down council. And by the way, you know what you're going to have? You're going to have step down council that is a hierarchy, not monarchy, not patriarchy, not matriarchy. None of this work. Hieros gamos, hierarchy. The true meaning of hierarchy is not this, this thing that we use it. The hierarchy is the best governance. The true hierarchy is the best governance. It's a step down council, and at the top you have a union of hieros gamos between a man and a woman, and that is the king and the queen. That they don't get that title willy-nilly. It is because they are the most powerful souls on the planet in union and keeping that everything afloat. They're keeping every distortion that appears on the planet that is a large scale. They're addressing that. Okay, and then the lower councils addressing the lower distortions. The lower councils addressing the lower distortions, right? And then when you have the family level, and they're addressing their level of distortions, then you see how there's nowhere where the evil can come in. And not only that, because everybody is addressing that, everybody's using that darkness for the good. And that is the art of living. This is what we're here. This is the school. Okay? Right now, this is not yet a school. You may say it is a school, but only for the very elite alchemical souls, pneumatic souls. That you may argue that it's for school for them. But once they get the order going at the highest level of council, the global level of council, then it's going to be, the country, the state, the local, the suburb, the village, and the family. There is this hierarchy that is holistic governance, way of governance, not this bullshit that we have right now. And when America, it has something like that, it's a good plan, it's a good basis to build up upon, because I think America has the best chance to have something of a holistic hierarchy governance that functions as a protectorate. I think Jordan Peterson was mentioning this, the step down council structure, where he also probably saw and envisioned how the governance supposed to be, where the problem is being addressed at its level and the level of the problem. You see what I'm trying to say? And so if it's a global problem, it's addressed at the highest level. If it's this country problem, you see what I'm trying to say? So all of these problems are being addressed. So with this structure of society, it is possible to live happy and holistically on this planet, because you're addressing the problem at its source and as it's happening. It's not like you don't live in utopia, right? Because it's boring. The problem is still happening, but they're being addressed at the level of where it's being created. It does not let that evil to propagate, because the problem is being resolved as a source. And that's exactly how you ought to play the game. There's going to be a new problem. You're going to have to figure out how to resolve that problem or that challenge, right? But you're addressing stuff like that, and you don't have anybody. You're trying to address this little problem, but they're putting all this fucking pressure on you to address this monstrous problem that is you're not even ready for, and it just crushes you under all this weight, and then you just pull it into despair and the suicidal thoughts, and you don't want to play anymore. So no, this structure is not conducive to of being a school for souls. It is not right, because the high level of problems still going to exist. It's just they're going to be resolved. Does that make sense? That's why you need this king and a queen at the top. That's why you need the council as well, that is supposed to be formed by couples too. That it is formed by couples. It's not by a man or a woman. It is formed by a couple. And you respect these heroes, Kamos, on all the levels. Okay? This, what I'm saying, is completely legit, and it's what must be created in this world. The only resistance to it will be the propagation of evil, which of course has no free will or any kind of authority. It's not supposed to be respected. Fuck that shit. But at the same time, you're not living in utopia, not thinking that without any kind of governance, it's going to be all right, right? You're not an anarchist either. You do need governance, but it must be based on wisdom on all the levels: family, societal, state, country, the world. And when we're going to have this type of structure, things are going to be all right. The conflict is going to be resolved before it escalates, right? So we don't have to go in these massive wars because the conflict is resolved on a level. So it's the highest chance. Like, and if the conflict kind of escapes, then there's going to be such a strong protective structure that everybody's going to be so motivated to resolve, and everybody knows how to resolve, that escaping of that virus, of that evil, is going to be taken care of. And that is the success of civilization. That is where you have level 1 civilization. Because right now we do not have the civilization yet. It's a work in progress, and it's good to recognize that. But that's my vision for this world. It is doable. And it's legit, because all these arguments about free will and everything, it's like, well, you have to have some degree of evil, so then, a soul can learn and stuff like that. It's very clear to me that the darkness does not go away. But to have the system and structure of society that is prepared and capable of handling that is at utmost importance. And not only that, it is the goal of the game. And even when you have that perfect, or not the perfect, or like more consciousness representing law structure and culture, that holistic culture, problems do not go away. Therefore, life is not boring. Not that everything is perfect. Of course, problems happen. You still have to resolve them. But then at least you have the level of the challenge and the capacity are at the same level, and your capacity is a little bit better than the challenge. And there is an enjoyment, because when a challenge is bigger than your capacity, that's when there is a crash and no longer enjoying. Okay? And the point is that life's supposed to be a challenging but enjoyable process. That's what the definition of the education or the school or learning is supposed to be. Okay? Then the earth, I would say, all right, the earth now is kind of stabilized, and it's a fun place to learn. Because right now, it is not. Something went haywire, and it is in the process of being rebuilt. And you see, like, even the thing that I'm talking about, that it comes from within, because it goes against of what you see from the outside. And this is what allows you to discern what was. This is the reason why everything is was fucked up and misgoverned for thousands of years. This is why civilization never blossomed into type 1 civilization, because of this. And you may argue it's because there it's honestly the work in progress, in it's a rescue mission. It is a rescue mission. It is not a good situation. But even though it's a rescue mission, it is possible. But it's not. It cannot be governed the way it's been governed for the last 100 years, or for like we had pockets of time where it was in space time where it was bubbling up, like in Italy as a Renaissance, and then in the early 1900s in America there was a bit of like that type of feel as well, where all the banks were decentralized and people were able to innovate, and there was nobody robbing each other that much, and it was just like 20 years of like really awesome stuff that is happening. But the evil corrupted that too. So well, besides having these little pockets of holistics, we have not had where it in recent history where it was right. This is why you cannot govern the way it was governed for the last, I want to say, 3,000 years. Yeah. For the last 3,000 years, all the structure of governance wasn't working. But those souls, those people who know how it all works here, for real, can see what's the real deal and how it can be done and how it should be done. But god damn it, there's not so many of them here. Anyway, all right, guys, that's enough for today. I don't know how I'm gonna call this video, but that's my little rant for today. Thanks for watching. Peace, and I'll see you in the next one.